Good evening. My name is Beatrice Njeri. Our sign language interpreter is Paul Mathenge, and this is GBS News at 9 coming to you live from Kenya's capital, Nairobi. We have a lot lined up for you tonight, but first, here are the highlights.
Some of us who belong to the Azimio family are benefiting from the blood and the sweat of the many Kenyans who came to the streets.
You are benefiting from Gen Z's demonstrations. Kalonzo rebukes his Azimio counterparts for going to bed with the government months after youth died in nationwide protest demanding change.
For me, is an application by the prosecution seeking to hold all the respondents who are 13.
The ghost of exams cheating yet to die as 13 teachers from Nyamninia Secondary School in Gem arraigned over exam malpractice allegations. Kenya calls for grants, not loans, in 167 trillion annual funds at COP29 to aid developing nations in combating climate change and its effects. Just 3 months and it's over. Gor Mahia fires head coach Leonardo Nieva following the club's lukewarm start to the 2024-2025 season, barely 4 months into his contract. Kalonzo Musyoka is now condemning some Azimio leaders, stating that they are benefiting from the Gen Z efforts. Speaking at the Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka headquarters in Nairobi today, Wiper Party leader, who is also a co-principal in the Azimio coalition, has vowed to keep the spirit of unity and demands for justice to the young Kenyans who were killed during demonstrations. Here are the details.
The Azimio la Umoja co-principal Kalonzo Musyoka has condemned his opposition counterparts, stating that they are dining with the government after the youth who vowed to fight for their rights were killed, and Kalonzo's sentiments directly channeled towards ODM party, which donated a section of its leaders to join Ruto's government in what Ruto termed as a broad-based government.
Some of us who belong to the Azimio family are benefiting from the blood and the sweat of the many Kenyans who came to the streets, and the whole world stood still and took notice of the Gen Z revolt and movement.
Musyoka's sentiments come in just 2 days after the former Premier Raila Odinga and the National Assembly Minority Whip stated that they are not in government, and Odinga has promised to retreat back to place a watchdog's eye to the government if things fail to work well in government for the good of the Kenyan people.
Chama cha ODM inasimamia haki na ukweli. Chama cha ODM ni chama cha kidemokrasia. Demokrasia ya kijamaa. Hiyo ndio sera zetu kama wana ODM. Sasa mnaona tulifanya hii mabadiliko hapa juu, maana yake mnaona baba anataka kugombania kiti huko mbele, lakini siendi bila kurudi. Mimi niko hapa tu, sio? Unaelewa vizuri?
Musyoka has vowed to take over the country's leadership come 2027 as his foot soldiers call him the incoming president.
I also take this opportunity to congratulate the coming president 2027 because of the work that he has done for this country for a long time.
Will Kalonzo manage to fit in Odinga's shoe as the opposition leader? Davis Karani, GBS News, Nairobi.
Education Cabinet Secretary Julius Migos has assured that individuals involved in exam cheating will face the consequences, but emphasized that the entire learning institutions will not be unfairly penalized. Speaking at the launch of the 2024 to 2028 strategic plan for the Commission for University Education in Nairobi today, the Cabinet Secretary further stated that his ministry will today release a 4.3 billion Kenya shillings reimbursement commitment letter from the Treasury to cover the outstanding salaries and remuneration for lecturers. Here is more on the same. Education Cabinet Secretary Julius Migos has stated that those involved in exam cheating will face individual consequences, assuring that entire learning institutions will not be collectively punished. Speaking during the launch of the 2024-2028 Strategic Plan for the Commission for University Education, Migos emphasized that the Ministry of Education remains committed to addressing exam malpractices effectively, with a focus on accountability at the individual level.
We'll treat each case individually. We are not going to condemn any group or any community or any school as a group. We are going to take individual action against individuals who are involved in any malpractice. You've seen a lot of arrests, and all these arrests are actually almost all in adults or teachers or the center managers, some of whom have already been interdicted because of that arrest. Once you appear in court, you're interdicted. So I'm urging them not to engage themselves in these particular malpractices because it won't pay. It does not pay to engage because we have a multi-sectoral team that is very, very alert.
The Cabinet Secretary also addressed the financial aspects of the education sector. He revealed that his ministry would on the same day release 4.3 billion Kenyan shillings reimbursement commitment letter from the Treasury to settle outstanding lecturers' salaries and remunerations. This move is expected to ease the concerns of lecturers and ensure timely payment of their services. The Education Cabinet Secretary assured the public that the government would continue to uphold a zero tolerance policy on exam cheating by addressing each case individually and providing the necessary financial support for educators. The government aims to foster a more transparent, accountable and fair education system in the country. 13 teachers from Nyamninia Mixed Secondary School in Gem appeared in a Siaya court today facing charges related to alleged examination malpractice. They were arrested yesterday following accusations of involvement in cheating during exams. In court, the prosecution requested that the teachers be detained for an additional 7 days to allow further investigations into the case. Here are the details.
Your Honor, the crux of the application is that Your Honor, we do request for custodial orders.
13 teachers from Nyamninia Mixed Secondary School in Game, including head teacher Judy Maloba Wamocho and her deputy Patrick Musungu Chamula, were brought before Siaya resident magistrate Jacob Mkara over alleged examination malpractice. Arrested the previous day, the teachers did not enter pleas as the prosecution, led by Evan Soita, filed an application requesting their detentions at Tiara police stations for 7 more days to allow further investigation.
Now this is the court's ruling. What is before me is an application by the prosecution seeking to hold all the respondents who are 13 pending investigation and further to subject the respondents' phones to forensic examination. Yes.
The other suspect arraigned today are Jacqueline Ouma Ogilo, James Omodi Onyango, Maurice Chage, and Bernard Owino. According to State Counsel Mr. Soita, the suspects were to be held to help with investigations. The applications was opposed by the suspect and lawyer Brian Ochanyo.
I have also considered the submissions by all the respondents and the prosecution.
Delivering his ruling, Resident Magistrate Mkala said he had taken into consideration both the prosecution and the suspect submissions and ordered that they be released on Kenya shillings 100,000 bond with one surety of a similar amount each. Alternatively, the magistrate ruled that they can be released on Kenya shillings 20,000 cash bail. The magistrate further ordered that their mobile phone be subjected to forensic audit and ordered that they all report to the investigating officer daily until the investigations will be completed. Paris Kigo, GBS News.
Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja has revealed that police officers are experiencing significantly higher rates of depression and post-traumatic stress disorder compared to the general public, highlighting an urgent need for tailored mental health support within the National Police Service. Speaking at a mental health advocacy event, Kanja noted that approximately 12% of officers report depression, nearly double the national average, due to the traumatic nature of their work and a culture that often discourages seeking help. Here is that report.
Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja has highlighted a concerning trend in mental health among police officers, stating that they experience higher levels of depression compared to the general public. Speaking at a mental health advocacy event organized by the Disability Mainstreaming Foundation of Kenya and Africa International University, Kanja emphasized that while mental health issues affect everyone, police officers are particularly vulnerable due to the traumatic nature of their work. The Inspector General called for urgent attention to mental health issues within the National Police Service, advocating for evidence-based research to inform policies aimed at supporting officers. He mentioned ongoing initiatives such as training programs focused on mental health, which aim to reduce stigma and encourage officers to seek help.
We also want those services to be led by officers who are also well-grounded in terms of training, whose mental health is also good. And that's the reason why I decided that we need to partner with other stakeholders, because we cannot achieve that alone. We need to work with everybody.
Kanja also addressed the rising trend of substance abuse among youth and police officers alike, linking it to broader mental health challenges. He acknowledged that many law enforcement personnel hesitate to seek assistance due to stigma, which can delay critical interventions.
So I want a situation whereby all of us, we stay safe, we are secure, we can be able to do our work from morning to evening, from evening to the next morning. Our children can go to school. Our fathers and mothers can go to work and return back safely. Every kind of business is secure. That is the kind of country that we require.
The meeting served as a platform to discuss collaborative efforts aimed at addressing mental health issues and a sign of commitment to ensuring that police officers receive the support they need to maintain their well-being while effectively serving the public. Susan Nganga, GBS News.
I am encouraged to know that the National Youth Service now intends...
Do keep your comments coming in through our SMS line 21144 and GBS TV Africa on all our social media handles. On that note, let us take our very first break. We'll be right back.
Hello everyone. I'm so much thankful to have this precious time to actually share with you the Word of God. When I was growing up and when I was attending church, my former church, I was taught that, you know, although I'm saved, but as I, when I commit sin, I become a sinner. And then when I become a sinner, again, I repent my sin every day for it to be forgiven, so that I can be assured of salvation. But when I was living a life of trying to confess my sin each and every day and believing that I'm a sinner, actually I could not have an assurance of my salvation in my heart. So I thought, and I was taught that my sin is, the deeds which I do outwardly. Until the time I came to realize, for sure, I'm a person who cannot really do good. The problem is not the deeds which I'm doing outwardly. The problem is the core. The core of my heart itself is evil. Jesus, what he did, he lived among us. And then he died on the cross because of our sin. And then he rose again. The reason why now he did not just resurrect and go to heaven, it is because of, to meet the disciple and to witness that, sin and death could not have any power in his life. He wanted to manifest that eternal life.
We have newly wedded couples in the house. They are going to tell us about their journey.
So for me, mimi nilikuwa msumbufu since I was young. So my mom was tough on me. Kabisa.
So for me, I feel wazazi wangu wote walikuwa so tough, walikuwa so strict. Hakukuwa na the softer one, like walikuwa kimoja.
After high school sasa unajua mimi nilikuwa nimeambiwa kuna ka college fulani mahali utaenda usome. But for me nilikuwa najua acha niende nitafute tu demu. Juu sana chama za shule.
Of course ningeenda CU, nilikuwa naenda enter. So hizo ndio vitu mbili zinilivutia sana kuja IYF.
Now nimekutana hivyo. Mlijua itakuja kuwa hivi ama what happened after that?
Personally nilikuwa nimeshachoka na story na dating na relationship. Nilikuwa nataka kukuwa anti mado.
Pesa. Hii video imeweza kutrend sana. Ningependa sana ichezwe. At least tuanzie from there.
Everywhere, GBS.
Welcome back. You are still watching GBS News at 9. Public Health and Professional Standards Principal Secretary Mary Muthoni has dispelled assertions that the ongoing polio vaccination is unsafe to children. The Principal Secretary says the vaccine being administered in the country has gone through the necessary certifications, including WHO, and thus should not be worrisome to parents. She has urged parents not to hesitate to bring their children for vaccination, noting multiple vaccination booths immunity of the children. She has, however, noted that parents should report to the nearest health facility if symptoms associated with a vaccination happen.
Conclude the second round of vaccinations today, November 13th, targeting 9 high-risk counties to vaccinate all eligible children regardless of previous immunization status. Children under 10, that is Busia, Bungoma, Trans Nzoia, West Pokot, and Turkana counties where polio campaigns have taken place since 2016. Under children under 5 years, Nairobi County, we have 7 sub-counties that we are dealing with, that is Kiambu Town, Kikuyu, Kabete, Juja, Ruiru, and Thika Town. And in Machakos County, we have 3 sub-counties, that is Matungulu, Kangundo, and Mavoko. Kajiado County, we have 2 sub-counties, Kajiado East and Kajiado North. However, during vaccination, sometimes you may find rare occurrences that some children might experience some mild side effects, such as fever, vomiting, diarrhea, fatigue, muscle aches, amongst others. And at this juncture, which is very common, sometimes they can become severe, and the parents and caregivers are requested to visit the nearest health facility for a medical review or for a medical review of the child, and may report by dialing our 271 hash number. So these are common issues that may occur after the child has received vaccination, and it is advisable that the children should be taken to a health facility instead of keeping the child home. And unfortunately, due to low routine immunization rates in some counties and polio outbreaks in neighboring countries, Kenya remains at risk at any given time. And that is why we are continually doing the oral polio vaccination, because every dose means a lot. It adds an extra protection.
The suspect in the murder of a 78-year-old woman in Kasarani has been arrested. Victor Ambeyi, a casual worker at Catherine Kimotho's home, is accused of killing her following a dispute over payment. Kimotho's body was discovered wrapped in blankets and dumped in a septic tank on her property. Here are the details.
A man has been arrested in Nairobi for the murder of his 78-year-old employer, Catherine Kimotho, whose body was found hidden in a septic tank on her property. Kimotho, a resident of Nyathaini in Kasarani, went missing on Saturday evening after last being seen with her male casual worker Victor Ambai. When her family was unable to contact her and her phone was switched off, they raised an alarm prompting to an investigation. Initial investigations revealed that Ambai, who had been employed at Kimotho's home for a month, was also missing. A search of the house and surrounding led detectives to the septic tank, where they discovered Kimotho's body wrapped in blankets and submerged. The victim's family identified her body, and a post-mortem examination revealed that she had been struck in the back of the head with a blunt object, leading to her death. After a manhunt, Ambai was tracked down and arrested at his cousin's house in Kino, Nairobi. He confessed to killing Kimotho after a dispute over his pay, which, according to Ambai, the employer had paid him less than what they agreed, which led to the altercation. Further investigations revealed that Ambai had sold Kimotho's mobile phone at a shop in Githurai 44. The shop owner, who had bought the phone without proper documentation, was also arrested. Ambai is currently in custody at Kasarani police station, awaiting formal charges, together with his cousin and the shop owner, who are also being held for questioning. Triza Tiengo, GBS News.
Kenya is now calling for an annual 167 trillion Kenyan shillings Africa Climate Fund to aid developing nations in combating climate change. Speaking at COP29 in Baku, Azerbaijan, Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi urged global leaders to scale up climate finance, address debt barriers, and support renewable energy expansion to achieve a just transition. Here is more on the same.
Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs Musalia Mudavadi has called on world leaders to establish an annual $1.3 trillion for Africa Climate Fund aimed at supporting developing nations in combating the effects of climate change. Speaking when he represented President William Ruto at the World Leaders Climate Action Summit at COP28 conference in Baku, Azerbaijan, CS Mudavadi emphasized the state of climate change being a daily reality in Kenya.
Today's discussions will pave the way for a new era of economic productivity, one that recognizes and rewards the vital role Africa plays in supporting global environmental health. Let us leave here with clear commitments to revalue our natural capital, ensure that our ecosystems serve as engines of growth, and advocate for fair financial systems that reflect the true wealth of our nations.
The Prime CS also proposed an additional $5.8 trillion by 2030 to ensure a just transition to low-carbon economies.
Further, we must agree to deliver this vital financing both in quality and urgency, as well as with transparency and ease of access. This is crucial in accelerating implementation of the national adaptation plans. We equally need to agree on a global goal on adaptation, as we significantly increase ambition for the NDCs to limit a global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. The COP should agree on the investment measures to triple installed renewable energy capacity by 2030.
Kenya's proposal at COP29 underscored the country's commitment to ensuring the necessary financing and international support for climate action. Hilary Kabila, GBS News.
Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, His Excellency Dr. Musalia Mudavadi, attended a high-level meeting dubbed Africa Climate High-Level Summit at the sidelines of the ongoing COP29 in Baku, Azerbaijan, where he has called the globe not to give Africa loans but grants in aiding the continent combat effects of climate change. Present in the meeting were Honorable Aiden Duale, Cabinet Secretary for the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Climate Change, and Principal Secretary, State Department for Environment and Climate Change, Dr. Festus Ngeno, who was the meeting moderator among a host of Kenya's delegation at the summit. Other dignitaries in the forum included Faure Gnassingbé, the President of Togo, who gave the keynote address, and the AU Commissioner, His Excellency Josepha Lionel Correa Sacco.
Declaration, and that is housed at the AU, aims to drive imperatives. Our people, our Excellency.
This Secretariat, which shall be its technical arm for implementation. 3, endorse that the Secretariat shall be operationalized jointly by the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change and Forestry, and the AU Department of Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy, and Sustainable Environment, that is responsible for CAHOS matters. 4, agreed that the aforementioned Secretariat will be financed through voluntary contribution from Kenya and other member states, as well as partners. And 5, welcome the recommendation in the Nairobi Leaders' Declaration on the climate change and call to action to make Africa Climate Summit a biannual event, and call upon interested African Union member states to offer to host the next Africa
Green Recovery Action Plan, known as GRAP. The African Union Commission, in collaboration with the Global Institute, Green Institute, the African Capacity Building Foundation, and Canada's support, kicked off the first phase of the GRAP implementation, with the first cohort involving 7 African member states, and I name La Côte d'Ivoire, Ethiopia, Lesotho, Namibia, Rwanda, Senegal, and Zambia. And 3 regional economic community, the East African Community, the Common Markets for West Africa, COMESA, and the Southern Africa and Southern African development communities.
Africa held the first ever climate summit in Nairobi a year ago. The aim was to transform the climate narrative from the usual blame game to a win-win situation for mankind on the planet. The bold commitments in Nairobi have since been translated into some 4 key initiatives. First, the Accelerated Partnership for Renewables in Africa. Second, the African Green Industrialization Initiative. Then third, we have the Africa Climate Smart Agriculture Alliance that brings together governments, research institutions, and the development community to promote sustainable farming practices, provide farmers with tools to adapt and build resilience to the changing climatic conditions and achieve sustainable food systems.
Many thanks for joining this live broadcast. We have a lot lined up for you in our news segment tonight, but first let us take a quick commercial break.
AS and A levels is a qualification program that is advanced. That is after one has completed the high GCSE program, then they advise to continue for AS and A level. AS typically is a 1-year program, and A levels is done in the 2nd year after completing the AS level. And this one equips the student with the knowledge that is recommended for the university and also by employers outside the countries or within the country.
Welcome to the 254 Trivia Game Show, where every second counts and the stakes are sky high.
Get ready for jaw-dropping challenges, mind-bending questions, and unbeatable fun.
Who will rise to the top and claim the ultimate prize?
Tune into GBS TV and let the games begin.
Don't miss out. This is the 254 Trivia Game Show. Good luck.
Everywhere, GBS.
Welcome back to the broadcast, and now to matters international news. In a dramatic escalation of violence in Haiti, the United States has banned all civilian flights to the country for the next month. This decision follows a series of dangerous gunfire incidents involving multiple jetliners flying to and from Port-au-Prince. The move comes amid a worsening security situation as the country struggles with the gang violence, political instability, and widespread poverty.
On Tuesday, the Federal Aviation Administration announced a ban on all U.S. civilian flights to Haiti for 30 days, following a series of incidents that exposed the extreme risks of flying into the Haitian capital, Port-au-Prince. Over the course of just 24 hours, 3 commercial airlines were struck by gunfire, leaving passengers and crew shaken. Later in the day, 2 additional flights departing from Port-au-Prince also came under fire. A JetBlue flight bound for New York and an American Airlines flight headed from Miami each reported bullet holes in their fuselages following post-flight inspections.
I could hear 3 distinct crack, 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 over the back of the plane.
The gunfire marks just the latest chapter in the ongoing crisis that has engulfed Haiti. Armed gangs, who control large parts of the capital and other regions, have created a climate of fear and instability. Meanwhile, Haiti's new Prime Minister, Alex Diada-Filsiame, has taken office in the midst of the crisis following the resignation of Gary Conil, as the country deals with not only escalating violence, but also a crippling economic and humanitarian crisis. The capital remains cut off from the world, with the airport closed and gunfire ringing out in multiple neighborhoods, further paralyzing the nation's already fragile infrastructure. Irene Juguna, GBS News.
Guinea is facing growing pressure to transition back to civilian rule after 2 years under a military junta. A coalition opposition group, civil society, and activists known as the Forces Vives has called for the junta to step down by January 1st, citing delays in election preparation and frustration with the slow pace of the promised democratic transition. The junta, led by Colonel Mamadi Dioboya, has faced protest and unrest as the public and the international community await signs of progress towards restoring civilian governance. Here is the full report.
A coalition of opposition groups, civil society organizations, and activists in Guinea, known as the Forces Vives, have urged the military-led government to hand over power to a civilian administration by January 1st. This call for a return to civilian rules comes as public frustration grows with the junta's slow progress toward elections following its 2021 coup. The junta, led by the Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya, initially agreed with the Economic Community of West Africa State to a 2-year transition period beginning in 2022. However, there's been little sign of election preparation, and public dissatisfaction has sparked occasional protests. Some of these protests have escalated into deadly clashes with security forces. In July, transitional authorities released a draft for a new constitution, which could allow Doumbouya to run in the next presidential election. However, no date has been set for a referendum on this constitution, which is seen as necessary to step before any election take place. The Forces Vives coalition highlighting the lack of progress, called for national unity to demand the junta departure and the start of a civilian-led transition. The group statement emphasized the need for both civilians and the military to support this push for change by the start of 2024. Paris Kigo, GBS News.
A new and more aggressive strain of the Mpox virus is spreading rapidly among children in the Democratic Republic of Congo and Burundi. The World Health Organization declared the outbreak a public health emergency in mid-August, and since then the number of child cases has more than doubled, causing growing concern across the region. Here is more on the same.
Nucleate-1 strain of Mpox is spreading fast, especially in children in the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is the center of the outbreak, and Burundi. Together, these two countries make up 92% of all Mpox cases in Africa this year. By November 3rd, the number of suspected child cases in the DRC has risen from around 11,300 to 25,600, an increase of more than 130%. Children are at a higher risk because many live in poor conditions with limited access to healthcare, food, and sanitation. The disease causes fever, rash, and lesions on the skin, along with severe headaches and tiredness. In some cases, children may have trouble breathing or develop sepsis, a serious condition caused by infection. Over 46,000 cases of Mpox have been reported across Africa this year, with more than 1,000 deaths, according to the Africa CDC. The risk of the virus spreading further in Burundi and the DRC is still very high, especially for children. Efforts to contain the outbreak are critical to protect the most vulnerable, especially the children. Irene Juguna, GBS News.
Gaza's civil defense says two recent airstrikes in the north killed at least 30 people, including children. UNRWA warns that no area in Gaza is safe for civilians. Meanwhile, the Deputy State Department spokesperson was grilled by journalists regarding the deadline the U.S. set a month ago to pressure Israel to improve the humanitarian situation in Gaza or face restrictions in military aid. Here are the details.
The violence in Gaza is taking a heavy toll on civilians. At least 30 people were killed in two recent airstrikes in the northern part of the enclave, with women and children among the victims. The UN Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA, have expressed concern, saying that no part of Gaza is safe. The agency is urging all parties to protect civilian spaces like schools and hospitals.
And unfortunately, all parties to the conflict are not respecting the sanctity of sites that should be safe for civilians, which includes hospitals and includes schools, both UNRWA and PA schools. And we would reiterate that call that all parties to the conflict respect the sanctity of those places so that civilians can find safety for themselves and for their families.
The Israeli parliament recently banned UNRWA from operating in Israel, which limits its ability to provide aid in occupied Palestine. Last month, the U.S. government has set a deadline urging Israel to improve the humanitarian situation or face restrictions in military aid. The U.S. State Department are singing a different tune, as it seems they're giving Israel a free pass.
At least from November 1st to November 9th, we have seen 404 trucks cross into Gaza. Again, Tom, the point is not that this number is satisfactory. We certainly don't feel it is. But the point here is that some of the steps that we've seen taken, it is our hope that those steps have created the operational conditions to allow for an additional influx of trucks, to allow for an additional influx.
All of a sudden you say that the metrics that you put out don't matter.
I had never said that they don't matter. What I said was...
You said rabbit hole. I mean, these are metrics exactly like you've put out. It's not a rabbit hole.
Meaning I don't want to take up time getting into a specific tit for tat on like truck numbers.
Well, then why did you put them in the letter?
You can't take
those
time.
metrics,
really important.
the metrics and the number of, let me just be very clear, the metrics and the number of trucks getting into Gaza every day absolutely matter.
Today, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken has called upon Israel to end the war because they have achieved their goals.
What we've seen is this. Israel, by the standards it set itself, has accomplished the goals that it set for itself, the strategic goals it set for itself. It was rightly determined to make sure, to the best of its ability, that October 7th could never happen again. And to do that, it said that it needed to dismantle the military organization of Hamas and to get the leadership that was responsible for October 7th. It's done both of those things. So this should be a time to end the war.
Yesterday, humanitarian organizations have issued warning that Gaza is at high risk of mass starvation during the winter. Yesterday, Biden met with Israeli President Isaac Herzog during the deadline. The bleak situation in Gaza remains the same, as Israel's tradition of continuous airstrike will cause more people to die in the coming days. This is Abdi Hamid Ali, GBS News.
Voters in Somaliland are heading to the polls on Wednesday to elect a president with hopes that international recognition is within reach after over 3 decades of self-rule. Somaliland, strategically located near the entrance to the Red Sea, declared independence from Somalia in 1991. However, it has not been recognized by any country, limiting its access to international funding and restricting travel for its 6 million residents. Here is that report.
On Wednesday, Somaliland voters will choose a president, hopeful that official recognitions is finally near after 30 years of self-rule. Somaliland declared independent from Somalia in 1981, yet remains unrecognized globally, limiting its international funding and restricting travel for its 6 million people. The current government in Hargeisa is aiming to finalize an agreement signed in January with Ethiopia, a landlocked neighbor, which would give Ethiopia access to Somaliland's coast in exchange for recognizing Somaliland's independence.
We are sending a message to the international community to give us recognition. Somaliland is a full functioning government. It has political parties. It has currencies. It's different from Somalia. It has stability.
The issue, for example, on dialogue with Somalia. The current government rejects it. The opposition think it's important to engage a dialogue with Somaliland. So one of them thinks it's more on confrontation policy. One of them thinks more is dialogue. That is one issue. The other issue is the MOU that Somaliland signed with Ethiopia.
Both President Musa Bihi Abdi, seeking re-election, and opposition candidate Abdurrahman Siro support this deal. Regardless of the election outcome, the agreement is expected to move forward after the election. The potential deal with Ethiopia has strained relations between Somalia and Ethiopia. Mogadishu, where Somalia's recognized government is based, opposes the agreement. This disagreement has led Somalia to strengthen ties with Ethiopia regional rivals, Egypt and Eritrea. Somaliland is also hopeful that the incoming U.S. administration under President-elect Donald Trump might reconsider the long-standing American policy of recognizing Mogadishu's authority over Somaliland. Some of U.S. officials who worked on African policy in Trump's first term have expressed support for Somaliland's independence. Somaliland sees its multi-party elections and relative stability since 1981 as a strong basis for its push for international recognition. Paris Kigo, GBS News.
U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has named Elon Musk to a new role in his administration. Musk will co-lead a Department of Government Efficiency with Vivek Ramaswamy. The department aims to cut government waste, reduce regulations, and reorganize federal agencies. Musk's new position will give him more influence in Washington after his financial support for Trump's campaign. Abdi Hamid Ali has more on the same.
Hi, everyone.
Trump appointed the world's richest man, Elon Musk, to lead a new Department of Government Efficiency. Musk will work alongside Vivek Ramaswamy to advise the administration from outside the government. The department's goal is to dismantle bureaucracy, slash excess regulations, cut wasteful expense, and restructure government agencies. This role doesn't need Senate approval, so Musk can keep his job at Tesla, SpaceX, and the social media platform X. Musk's new role follows his major donations to Trump's campaign and public support for him. The new department is also called DOGE, a reference to Musk's promotion of cryptocurrency, Dogecoin. Musk wrote on social media, threat to democracy, nope, threat to bureaucracy.
Government spending is taxation. So whether it's direct taxation or government spending, it either becomes inflation or it's direct taxation. Your money is being wasted, and the Department of Government Efficiency is going to fix that.
Some analysts believe the position could help Musk and Ramaswamy, who both own private companies. Consumer rights groups have called it corruption, but time will tell whether Trump's loyalists are up for the job. This is Abdi Hamid Ali, GBS News.
The future is gonna be amazing.
Do keep your comments coming in through our SMS line 21144 and GBS TV Africa on all our social media handles. That international news brings us to our sports news. Let's get sporty. Gor Mahia have fired Brazilian head coach Ronaldo Neiva following the club's lukewarm start to the 2024-2025 season, barely 4 months into his contract. The former coach at Tanzania's Yanga was appointed to the role at Kongalo in July 2024, taking over from Jonathan McKinstry, who led Gor Mahia to 2 consecutive league titles. The defending champs have had a tough start to the 2024-2025 Kenya Premier League season. They sit in the 12th position, having won only 2 matches in the 6. Here is more on the same.
Ronaldo Neiva's poor start to the season was punctuated by a preliminary round exit from the CAF Champions League in the hands of Egyptian giants Al Ahly. Despite starting their season late due to continental assignments, Gor Mahia have fluttered to deceive under the Brazilian ring, winning only 2 of their opening 7 games and losing 3 in the process, a run that sees them sit 12th on the log. Gor Mahia hasn't won a match since September, frustrations that saw Goons assault the coach after the Muranga Seal came from 2 goals down behind to earn a point at Machakos Stadium. However, the team's management noted that it has remained committed to maintaining the club's status and competitiveness despite Mr. Neiva's poor start at the club. Gor Mahia will now begin an ambitious search for his replacement amid a chaotic season that has seen the local turn into a shadow of their former selves. Zedekiah Otieno and Michael Nam have been tasked with interim managerial duties as the club continues to search for a new coach. Reporting for GBS TV, I am John Kinyanjui.
Kenya Rugby Union and gaming company SportPesa have announced a major restructuring of their partnership aimed at enhancing support for the men's national sevens rugby team, Shujaa, as they gear up for the upcoming HSBC 7 Series new season. The announcement was made at a press briefing held at the Orchid Lounge Fairgrounds in Nairobi on Wednesday. With increased support and a renewed focus, the team aims to bring pride to the country and raise the profile of Kenyan rugby on the global stage. Here are the details.
New partnership marks a significant evolution in the relationship between the two entities, underscoring the company's continued commitment to supporting the growth and success of rugby in Kenya. Particularly the Shujaa team has made a notable return to the prestigious HSBC 7th Series. Kenya Rugby Union Chairman Sasha Mutai expressed his gratitude to partners for their unwavering support over the years. SportPesa CEO Ronald Karauri highlighted the growing investment in the team and the broader impact of their sponsorship. The announcement marks a pivotal moment for Shujaa as they seek to solidify their position in the HSBC 7th Series and make a strong push for the top honors in international rugby. With increased support and renewed focus, the team aims to bring pride to the country and raise the profile of Kenyan rugby on the global stage. The revamped partnership will see continued collaboration between Kenya Rugby Union and SportPesa with an emphasis on long-term sustainability and the development of both players and infrastructure, ensuring a bright future for Shujaa in the world of sevens rugby.
Ornken's got nowhere to go. He spins out of 1. And the penalty against Chile for holding on. And that will do it. Kenya can manage this clock down to the death. Settle, settle, and high fives. They know they've done the job. Tap off the field. Kenya are victorious.
Reporting for GBS TV, I am John Kinyanjui.
And that sports news brings us to the end of our news segment tonight. Many thanks for joining the broadcast. And as always, here at GBS News at 9, we make your news our business. My name is Beatrice Jerry. Our sign language interpreter is Paul Mathenge. Good night.
Everywhere.